Deltarune is the alternate universe sequel successor thing to Undertale, and an RPG created by Toby Fox in 2018 that's set to be finished in like 2042. Like Undertale, it's a retro-style RPG where you don't have to kill anyone except for some edge cases. This ever-evolving story of likable characters, heroic prophecy, and averting tragedy continues with each new chapter release every time I hit a major life milestone. Fuck, is that all I have left? So, to commemorate,
the halfway mark has been attained.
With Chapter 5 right around the corner, I thought I'd cement my opinions before we get to the second half and rank all the bosses so far, weighing up attacks, boss stats, player input, story context, character, and the soundtrack. There's just one problem. What the f counts as a boss in this game? Obviously main and shadow crystal bosses count, some clearer mini bosses too, but the water cooler has its own theme, but it's not a unique encounter. Shudder first acts like a mini boss, then becomes a weaker enemy. Werewire is a forced unique story encounter that shows up right at Queen's doorstep, but then there are two in the optional party dojo. So with 40 entries and some I'll definitely just skim over, I've decided to just include damn near anything that could be considered a boss. Well, f me. C round counts because it's a unique enemy. He does not attack you. Ralsei wants to teach Susie how to act and treat enemies kindly to then spare or pacify them. Susie, of course, tries to hit it with an axe so it runs away. This is perfect for the story, a waste of time for this list. Let's get to my least favorite actual boss in this game. I detest the mic battle. I don't care that it's a mic fight. I don't want to clap or yell, possibly late at night, in short bursts to control how far my soul moves along this path. Micro adjustments are impossible. You will never hit that mid spot or be able to hold it for long because most people aren't professional singers with that kind of voice control. Luckily it's optional and you can remap the microphone to something else, but only before the fight when you have no idea what to expect. And even then, the button input is still very sensitive. The fight has a humorous little plot as Toby pokes fun at the fandom, but there's a much better version of this fight later on the list where that isn't overshadowed by Clover sorta just exists around the Scarlet Forest, and while a charming enough character with its 3 heads of differing personalities, this fight is so dull. She has 2 attacks, both consisting of these tiny balls that slowly shoot off from clubs. You pick topics that she likes to end the encounter. This feels like a regular enemy, but I guess it's a unique forced encounter, so whatever. Alright, I've got the spray bottle ready. Task Manager's Party Dojo rematch. No! Put that away! Is a cute little memory game where she tells you which quadrant to go to, escalating in complexity slightly, with up to 3 whole letters in a row. It's a harmless minigame that isn't too challenging or interesting. Sweet Cap and Cakes have such fun designs and are supposedly rebels against the Queen, but they barely do anything. They have one attack that's kinda long, but are really made to introduce the S and R action, learning to target separate enemies with the whole party. I'm just baffled as to why there wasn't a more substantial rematch. Oh well, at least KK is a CD player. I love this squishy little spade boy and his stupid bicycle that makes motorbike noises. Lance is a great first battle for Deltarune, but he is just that. You dodge very simple attacks before he leaves to refuel his bicycle. It sets up our main antagonist for the chapter, and Susie attacking things on a cooldown, a major problem to solve later, and that's about all it needs to do before the player's seen the tutorial. A decent hook. And now to jump ahead almost to the furthest point possible as of 2025 with the Titan spawn encounter. Basically another tutorial fight, the Pride of D tier. I guess this unique encounter has its own theme, but it really serves to set up the Titan and your soul's means of defeating it with light. Strafing as close to the attacks as possible without getting hit is a fitting evolution of the tension point system rewarding you for the same thing, now required to defeat these dark element attacks. It's a fine precursor to the Titan in a tense build up, but it's got one attack. Okay, I know you can't lose this encounter before Lancer stops trying to hit you, but look at my sad little boy. This fight is basically a cutscene, hence the D tier, but my god is it a good one with the versus Susie theme. Susie clearly feels betrayed. We later learn people have gotten close to her in the past just for a cruel joke, so when it seemingly happened again with someone she truly bonded with, she's blinded with rage, seemingly fooled again when it felt so genuine this time. That's until she sees Lancer intentionally holding back, and neither of them want to hurt each other. Lancer just wants to protect her and the king, his dad. From here on, Susie starts to see the value in pacifism, initially to avoid upsetting her friend, before it eventually facilitates much deeper connections as the story continues. Finally in C tier we hit some actual fights again. Lenino and Elnina are themed as the weather hosts of the TV world, but seem to parallel Toriel and Asgore for some Chris-centric angst in this Chris-centric dark world. They're disgustingly sweet, they then fight, break up, and even involve a third party in their relationship dynamics. So while I appreciate that correlation, these two aren't that interesting on their own as their egos split them up mid-battle. Their attacks are just these boring, arcing shapes over and over, and we can only say I love TV, which does nothing because the fight ends after the couple break up. Task Manager is a fine little boss, with the board of letters you have to navigate based on her request, made challenging with the tasks also trying to hit you. It feels less like a minigame here and more avoiding a synergistic pairing of attacks. The shock of the water cooler's unexplainable wrath is hilarious. Like, why the hell does this thing have it out for me? But it really only has this one attack that moves and turns. The intensity of its theme and threatening aura are super funny, and it's sort of tricky at first, but there's not enough anything else to place higher for me. Wire just barely counts as a boss to me, but for what it is, it's got some solid attack variety that it throws out unpredictably and rapidly. It feels more threatening than a regular enemy, even if you do spare it like one, as it prefers your words entertain its fighting spirit than try to comfort it. In a pretty solid glow up, this Clover rematch in the Party Dojo gives it just one more attack that adds some much needed variety. It's good fun as you choose from topics you think it'll like based on the personalities of its various heads, now actually on a timer, which makes the lighthearted gimmick of conversation topics a lot more engaging. The Holy Water Cooler is literally the water cooler fight again, except it's all high and mighty about how you act towards it with this giant fucking list of conditions. It gives less mercy if you flirted with the other water cooler in TV World, or say you flirt with everyone, except it's kind of bugged, where talking to this curtain NPC after flirting with the other water cooler will destroy the flag the Holy Water Cooler checks. Anyway, the rest of this fight is Miss Mizzle, who has this circle attack and that's it, but she adds a bit of personality to this fight I found to be a bit more enjoyable than before. This Party Dojo fight actually shows Lenino and Elnina thriving as a couple again, free of all the main story drama detracting from their previous semi-scripted fight. Here you have to look at the weather forecast and choose the appropriate item to block it out, which grants more mercy. However, I'm stupid. I failed to realize there were different items for each character, so tried blocking out the rain with sunglasses. This combined with the juggling minigame in their last turns aren't anything too special, but certainly more engaging than their last fight back at number 32. Rules Cards Chapter 2 Battle is honestly super creative, as your customized thrash machine from Chapter 1 provides unique attacks for each of its parts. Don't pick the fucking duck parts. Unfortunately, Rules Card is a fucking idiot. The battle centers around a turf war with these little houses where you can corner Rules in 2 turns by rushing diagonally. This is how most players do it, and it's really funny, I believe intentionally so, but it means you miss out on so many cool attacks. Unless you're Germa.
This dude's a moron. I mean, I'm winning. What are you talking about?
Mouse Wheel is a bunch of mouths tied together that track your soul movements and shoot laser balls for some reason. It's a fairly simple encounter, just a bit higher in C for the stupid pun design and the act of catching them in a cage. It's fun. It feels weird to talk about this Birdly fight first, so what I'll say for now is that it is a variation on his other fights, just with the main goal of building up 100% TP to use Snowgrave, and he only uses this attack with double the spikes than before. Major props to Birdly for confronting us as we force Noel's hand in this route. I hate this fucking route. For B tier now, we have a solid lineup of bosses with no real drawbacks, the first of which is Giga Queen, with a completely different style of combat as it imitates Punch-Out. The chapter's build-up pays off all the arcade machine segments, and Queen has quite a few attacks that necessitate varied timing of punches and dodges, but the fact that's all we can really do makes it restricting and repetitive despite the boss's moves. Alright, this is the true form of C round, as it gains a crown and becomes K round, with a slight color change on its sprite for some reason. This is so annoying to me, why does it do this? As the first real mini-boss of the game, it challenges both Susie and the player if they're inclined to attack the boss, as attacks raise its strength and it completely outheals the damage. You have to act in this fight and make it bow like a crazy person, showing the tactical value in pacifism that Susie ignores. This is a lot more interesting looking back as we see just how many walls Susie had up at this point, choosing violence as it was the only thing that she was allowed to be good at, the box she was put in. Chapter 1 Ralsei of course lacks the nuanced perspective he later gains towards Susie's brand of heroism. It's a great moment where both extremes collide and from here on begin to rub off on each other positively. But for now, Ralsei calls Susie a bad hero and Susie, forced back into that box, decides to embrace it and joins the bad guys. And it's the same fight again, except on the other end of the arc, with K-Round controlled by Rules Card. Susie starts trying to learn how to solve things non-violently, mainly just for Lancer at first, and comes up with Susie's idea. The fight might otherwise be the same as before, but it's the first boss the party all defeat together, plus throwing Ralsei's fun. Berdley's first fight on the roller coasters is great with his very flashy attacks. I love the freaking spear gun and that he's trying to give out these signals to Queen the whole time, but she's busy with a coloring book. She's got earbuds in. It's just a bit plain with our actions. You just hit the win condition button with everyone and ram into his bumper car. Berdley's second fight is almost exactly the same with a variant on his tornado attack, but there's the novelty of Noelle in your party for this short period, allowing you to play smart with Berdley. He brings in some wires to spice up the difficulty and give you further excuse to play with Noelle's new spells like Sleep Mist and... No, we already did that one, and I cheated that save file just for the footage, which is now deleted, but just in case I threw the hard drive into the ocean, I do not want the weird rat on my file. Oh god, please Toby, it was just for the video, I swear! The Lancer and Susie duo live up their best life, blowing up your stupid machine because it sucked, and now just riding around on bikes and throwing axes. This is the only real Lancer boss battle where you've got to get Susie to sleep and make Lancer accidentally start liking us. It's a shame the win condition needs Susie asleep. You very rarely get their silly combo attacks. I just love these two together. They're so stupid and their combo attacks are fun when you see them. The Sound of Justice has this twist on the green soul fights that were already new to Deltarune, now without our vision. Chris comes to Susie's help despite the game telling us we can't do much but imagine what Susie's doing, so Chris makes that effort on their own without our control, which is an awesome moment for their real bond, and then Ralsei crits the shit out of what's revealed to be this creepy statue thing with a sneak attack. Susie refuses to attack the statue as she believes it's Gerson. I believe at first as she's too fond of him. But this thing's attacks are either really easy to dodge with a small part of memorization, or really difficult for me with my fairly mediocre reaction time as the attacks land mere moments after the audio cue. It isn't the longest fight and we don't get a lot of strategic input either, winning after pure survival. Alright, everything after here is a pretty major encounter or character, but this one at the very top of B is just a damn happy fight that's so fun to take photos of all these stupid moments. That's it makes my soul happy, and the attacks frozen in snapshots before rotating and releasing is a perfect way to telegraph the absolute chaos of bullet hell that follows. Alright, on their own these guys may have all had C tier bosses, but together, as a thruple, Lanino and Elnina led by Rules make for a hilarious and chaotic boss fight as Rules hijacks the UI, forcing us to only act. But fear not, for you can also... Lancer. This fight is so stupid, with Rules trying to impress Tanner using the Shadow guys as they do this for some reason. Lanino and Elnina finally get some good attacks until Rules, with the reaction time of a stone, pulls out the realistically moving laser pointer. I will give him credit though, he is the first boss to attack us in the fucking UI. Hilarious boss with some of the best player input yet. Spamton's first fight is all about sealing the deal without giving Spamton any of your chroma. Obviously, Spamton's charm carries this fight. Not to neglect his silly attacks with these little Spamtons and how he warps the board, but he only has 3 moves. Spamton fully encapsulates a spam email with his creepily broken speech patterns that make his negotiation tactics delightfully stupid. I love him and can't wait to get the hyperlinked blocked he offers. Wait, the fucker stole my money! Otherwise known as the Shadow Mantle Holder or ERAM by the community, this fucking thing can pose quite a jarring fight to players as you're thrown right into a tough boss fight with a cramped map in the previously adventure-focused old-school video game mechanics. For all that, I got frustrated fighting this fucking thing for like 40 minutes, but I can't deny once you get the mechanics down, it's pretty fun. Plus, the atmosphere is super creepy. I can't say much more without delving into theory crafting territory, but my god does the setup and fight itself for this fucking thing raise a lot of questions. Alright, now I can enjoy this fight as the Switch 2 version of Mike is almost completely different to the other releases, subbing out the microphone for another mouse using both Joy-Cons. The 5 new minigames demand some crazy hand-eye coordination as each hand has to do something entirely separate at the same time. Especially novel when trying to block attacks from both sides, or when trying to avoid getting hit with one Joy-Con while the other tries to keep the cat away from the rain. And yet I still feel like I'm in control of the movement, even if it's difficult to focus on. The silly cat-centric battle sets up the mysterious mic, which I think is just this microphone in reality, but it's hilarious to see the descent into madness as Tanner's goons cannot figure out who Mike is or where he came from, acknowledging the absolute depths of insanity the fandom collapsed into, especially with fucking Woody theory. The Spade King is a scary final chapter boss because unlike the others, he is truly out for blood. He doesn't appear for long, but the Card Kingdom lore explained by Other Darkness sets him up well. Overthrowing the other kings, Jevil acting as his informant of the Roaring Night, you get this sense he might know more than it first seems. Maybe even wearing the Shadow Mantle, and why is his throne room in this state? This whole fight is really cinematic. The squad finally comes together with Chris again acting independently of us to save Susie, and Susie calls them her friend, scored with a chilling piece as he holds Lancer, his own son, as ransom before the fight begins, during which his theme, while maybe not the best full piece, continuously builds tension with a fantastic payoff. King will not reason, so you either attack or outlast his onslaught of attacks, notably hurling the box around. Alright guys, I'm really nervous placing this one in only A tier because the fandom loves Spamton. Just kidding, I don't care. I love Spamton too, but this fight as a Shadow Crystal boss is just not as hard as I'd like it to be. The Yellow Soul mode is really fun, allowing you to shoot obstacles and even Spamton to generate mercy, featuring a chargeable big shot for on-the-spot thinking to better counter certain attacks. Where Spamton was previously a creepy but charming little guy, he is elevated to a high-level threat as we stupidly upgrade his body through some kind of malware in the wall. He desperately yearns for freedom. He says like Chris he doesn't want to be a puppet on strings. It's this recurring theme in Deltarune that we still know very little about, and Spamton's the furthest we've seen someone go to seemingly escape. The storytelling and creep factor is at an all-time high in the normal route, which earns it 8th place. The Weird Route's narrative is a lot less cohesive at 9th. Yet apart from their very interesting context and character, the Shadow Crystal bosses are so enjoyable to me because of their difficulty. The resulting time investment thus makes them more memorable, the unbeatable thrill and satisfaction when finally winning. That made it oddly disappointing when I beat Spamton Neo on my first try. Maybe Toby didn't want to demand too much from a brand new soul mode, or maybe the attacks are just very linear so that you can focus on shooting and dodging simultaneously, but that falls apart when you realize that dodging is the absolute priority. You can generate mercy elsewhere. I know the Weird Routes version is harder since you have only Chris's HP, but I do not personally enjoy that route for its purposely lackluster narrative congruence, and because I don't want to kill everyone. It's almost the exact same fight otherwise. The final boss of Chapter 4, the Titan, lands the 7th spot at the top of A tier, a bit lower than I would have liked, but it's still a really good boss. We didn't think we'd even see a Titan so early. As was established with the Titan spawn, you're trying to both dodge and vanquish these diversified dark attacks with light. These get real tough later on with just how many creatures there are. The attacks and build up do a fantastic job conveying the true scale of this thing. Heck, even just climbing up the Titan was a spectacular effort. But oh, was it rough seeing it heal all that damage like it was nothing. Only Gerson could have inspired the squad to persevere, where of course, Susie's idea dunks both her and Chris into the Titan to kill it from the inside. Exactly as Gerson taught her with Jackenstein, tackling the problem, the pain, from the inside. I wouldn't be surprised if this theme somehow returns in future chapters, if this hope born from their triumph is able to connect with the night, or whatever other grim threat awaits in the future. God, this fight has some great moments surrounding it. I just wish the Titan had a few more diverse attacks that kept me on my feet, rather than the same couple that get a bit harder through each phase. The S tier bosses display not only great battles, but succeed in going above and beyond, starting with Jackenstein, going above and beyond to make you laugh. He's this Frankenstein mess of a costume for the hometown festival, and so his speech is equally and lovably disjointed. While his scares are legitimately terrifying at times, it's juxtaposed against not only that goofy ass face, but the messed up grammar, the silly beats in the background, these dancing pumpkin guys, this cracked out Mario crash out when you light him up. The illusion of seriousness and his recurring "you're taking too long" deteriorates into hysteria. You're long. No, I'm long! It's like a carnival ride. If you're not thrilled with both laughs and lighthearted scares, you have no soul. You literally run through a haunted house of horrors as the box is remolded entirely, offering a delightful encounter before shit heats up later on, whilst even preparing us with the dark battle mechanics. I was not expecting the Queen Sneak, but holy crap, she has so many unique attacks. I can't even begin to describe them all, just look at all of these. I initially hated the barrier she puts up as acting barely dents it, until I realized you can just redbuster the crap out of it since it's not a person, you're not hurting anyone. You never have any idea what to expect from Queen. She just talks like a crazy person because she is just a computer, and yet it's even theorized that she cleverly reflects the cast's real mothers. She struggles to connect with Chris despite her attempts like Toriel, she's sadly quite averse to Birdley, which I don't like what that suggests, and she's extremely overprotective of Noelle just like Carol in her icy cold introduction in Chapter 4. So with all these complex dynamics, it creates a really tense scene as Queen enslaves Birdley and kidnaps Noelle, trying to make a future best for all of them while overreaching like crazy, even if she talks like every person online put together. Her attacks mainly reflect that sillier temperament further, like when she starts drama online, or when her super awesome final attack crashes and spawns pop-ups everywhere. You've not only got these hilariously creative evolutions on past attacks, but combo moves as they go off all at once, or with Birdley's attacks as she's got him under mind control. Not to mention the strategic potential of not just the barrier, but also in freeing Birdley. You can either guarantee a set mercy gain with a group loosen, or perform a well-timed throw at the wires to gain a whole lot more. There's so much going on in this fight that's unseen, but it's time we finally recognize Queen for the great boss she is. My little underrated Scrimblow Bimblow, Jevil, the one who started the rabid hunt for the Shadow Crystals, and for good reason. We all love these secret fights because Jevil established a phenomenal precedent. Darkness barely speak of him, but his friend Shawn was forced to lock him up when he suddenly changed, becoming some twisted informant for the Spade King, even telling him of the Roaring Night, now just locked away under the castle. So what happened to Jevil? From the moment you meet him, he stands out with all these crazy voice lines. He seemingly lives in freedom, believing, knowing this whole world is a game. The spiraling 3D battlefield feels like it distorts reality, rarely if ever seen in Deltarune again. You can't help but wonder if someone or something broke him with knowledge, but he can't do much else about it but sit back and laugh as he always did. Maybe spice up a supposedly predetermined story with a little bit of fun or a little bit of chaos. You can't talk or reason with him, he's on a whole other plane, exuding this unsettling comfort in that. It makes him dangerous and you feel that in his attacks. They're brutal for chapter 1, thrown at you with no mercy. They're not fully random, you can see the bullets coming, but there are just so many in this bullet hell, you can never fully anticipate the pattern because he'll just change up the carousel with different animals moving inconsistently, or throw out all the suit attacks together at once. He even debuted the climactic full screen final attacks, like we're pressing up against the boundaries of the world, of the game. Like his fantastic theme, it drops this freedom motif across all the Shadow Crystal bosses. It makes you excited to see the next larger than life threat. You get the sense that like them, we're playing with something we shouldn't here, pressing on the walls of a freedom we might not like, that we someday might not know how to react to as the end of the game draws closer. And all that excitement started here with the wonderfully themed, reality warping little wildcard of Jevil. At number 3 is Tenor, the highest final chapter boss on the list, because chapter 3 sets the whole stage for this fight so intricately. Obviously the minigames are fantastic, you've played them all across this chapter, so they're perfectly natural to revisit. Especially if you add in the Susie Zilla game, you've got all these new twists on them as you ram into Tenor, face a role reversal in the shooting game, playing the music currently scoring the fight in the rhythm game. It's one of the most creative and ambitious attacks in the game, making these once light-hearted minigames frantic, tense, and dangerous as Tenor's hellbent on dwelling on the past forever, felt especially in the final run-through of all of them. Arguably, Tenor has more presence than any other boss in the game, with tons to unpack by the final confrontation. Yearning for the past, togetherness, and the simple joys of family, it draws a lot of parallels to a certain creator of this very dark world, feelings of abandonment I'm sure Chris would share as one of the last ones left in the now empty household. Dessa's disappearance, the devastated Carol, a spiraling Asgore, a distant Noelle, Rudy's sickness, Asriel leaving for college. But as Susie argues with Tenor after the fight, knowing that dark place all too well herself, new days and new joys are ahead if you aren't just dwelling in past misery. Just as Chris has found a new comfort, a new friend in Susie despite a massive low, there might just be a new future ahead for all of them to fight for. And yet so quickly that future can all be ripped away. Yet we can still make an effort to protect what we can in the seemingly fated loss against the Roaring Night. This is the big guy we've been hearing all about till now, right at the end of chapter 3 to do who the f knows what, but they can reduce the party's health to minus 999. Except for Chris, of course, who might be in cahoots with the Knight, holding back damage horrendously. Bro, Rousey is out damaging you. When I first played this fight, I made an effort to survive and got a few turns in and noticed this was too well designed to just be a scripted loss. There was this insane song, and it didn't feel like something Toby would do, but then the chapter just ends. But of course, you can take this motherfucker on in the hardest battle I've fought yet, taking a good 90 plus minutes to get it down, yet it barely feels stale. Obviously it has to be engaging to keep you at it, but the music is uniquely aggressive and lightning fast, overwhelming in all it does with twisted synths, roaring choirs, as the knight's swords surge through incredible formations, through endless halls or piercing blasts at light speed. The pitch mellows out while the beat rockets forth, the melody fading further into the background as you see that despite their complexity, there are gaps you can predict. These spikes target sequentially by size. The music relents, a slowed pace to regain your cognizance, steady yourself to keep going. Susie's dialogue here is fantastic. Even with Tenna's supposed death a moment ago, she embodies this underlying hope and love for her new friends, this newfound assurance in her ambitions, fighting in fear no more. The melody is shot forward in the rapid beat once more. Amidst an absolute migraine of noise, you know you can find a rhythm in despite the knight's mounting ferocity. It may center almost entirely on dodging attacks to fight back when you can, but these attacks are ridiculously satisfying to figure out even as they grow. Plus they look awesome, the whole display is fantastic. The knight forces its way into the narrative and takes what it wants. The dialogue is serious, the score is grungy, it cautions a threat of unfathomable power in its off-brand presentation. Combined with its sheer difficulty, it all creates this unforgettable moment for the player, enduring and strategizing in their own story fighting this thing. Yeah, let's go! Now the Roaring Knight may have been super hype and difficult, but it feels like an encounter with someone we really had no chance of beating. There's an air of helplessness around that fight. You barely make a dent in its total HP. You may chip off the black shard, but it escapes to the shelter with ease. But I like the number 1 spot because it makes me believe we can actually beat that thing someday. In number 1 is the Old Man, aka Gerson Broom, aka the Hammer of Justice. Obviously as a solo Susie fight, this optional Shadow Crystal fight spotlights her arc with Gerson. She's come so far by chapter 4, as I believe by the Tenna and Knight encounter, as the stakes are raised and the prophecy looms, she's truly motivated by heroism, yet she still doubts her capacity. So Gerson teaches her to look at things from another perspective. She might not heal as well as Ralsei, but she can do it her way, like when she dunks Chris into the Titan to steal it from the inside, or she distracts Gerson with her misaimed heal move, just as he taught her with Jackenstein, recurringly encouraging her in this battle dialogue, despite the undertone of something far grander, to write her own ending to the supposedly pre-written story. His attacks are amazing. The Green Soul gameplay makes each attack pattern completely unique while using the same moves. First you gain 4 more angles to defend from, then there are these turtle shells, attacks at completely different paces, then he'll slam you into Red Soul mode, telegraphing a hit from above before this cheeky fuck hits you from the side. Took me forever to catch on to that one. Though it fits Gerson's very defiant nature and his training, testing not just her strength but her healing magic as he disables items, and her mind as her brute force alone won't always get her through. You know, since he repels her rude busters like a beast, they both so often break the rules of the game. The prophecy may ultimately come true in some ways, like how there are particular certainties in life, but Gerson's rejection of these blindingly bright words are what make him so charming. With such compelling storytelling and gameplay, you want a well-fought victory, yet not so hard it makes you hate Gerson, possibly frustrating instead of inspiring, spamming through the text over and over. And it strikes that perfect balance, but even then you can get these extra difficult moves if you only defend for some reason. Gerson refers to a certain help in Susie's battle, and I believe that's us. Dodging attacks and selecting moves with her, separate from Chris, as we know. Chris might dislike us, and is still very obviously important to Susie, but Susie is one of the few characters who isn't hiding secrets from us. It feels like we're in this shit together, determined to change the future in a rather dark point of the story where things may only get worse. And so Gerson's tested our perseverance until we can work around it and find some way to write the ending, laughing and trolling all the way, believing Susie can find some way to make her own future. He's forced Susie to think outside the box for a reason, so we better not forget it by the time the final chapters roll around and I face a horrifically violent death. Oh hey, I just got early access to Deltarune Chapter 6! And my marriage license? Can't wait to get full access to marriage. Oh shit, no way! I've just got Chapter 7 as well! Man, I can't wait to sit down with this.